Hello and welcome to the Roots of Reggae, presented by Jetstar Music. Episode 4, Luciano.
All the wars and cry. I say though mankind is a living God knows it's not right. Oh no, cause they're living like the hooligan.
First, let me say thank you very much for coming, my brother.
Oh.
Normally, we try and make it possible as much as possible to have an interview, because this is very important also, to share our philosophies and so on. Well, I started out as from a humble family. My mother and father had 9 of us.
Which one of the 9 are you?
I am the 7th child from my mother and father. You know, my mother, Miss Sophia McClymont, and my father, Mr. Arthur McClymont. I was born in Manchester, Davytown, one of the central parishes of the island.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on church songs, religious songs. I grew up on the Bible.
Which church were you attending?
My father was an Adventist, Seventh-day Adventist, so I grew up actually in the Adventist movement.
And were your parents doing like farm work or what?
But my father was a carpenter.
Okay.
And my mother was like a common laborer. She would do washing and so on for people and so on. But she was a good midwife also. She helped to give birth to many people, many youngsters from the community. So more or less, when I was 11 years old, my father moved on. In other words, he transited into a different life. He got some sickness and he had to move on.
I see.
But anyhow, things got even rougher then because my mother had to struggle with all of us. There were one or two of my bigger brothers who had passed through school and doing their own little thing, but they were really fending for themselves rather to survive more than anything else.
Sure.
So it was still tough on our mother. So this is the kind of situation I grew up in. But there were always times when, I can always remember, despite the rough times, there were good times.
Right.
Because my father moved on. He didn't leave us unattended to. He had a house, family house, and a nice little flat there. We could get fruits and so on from the land. So it wasn't that bad.
Okay.
Even though we might not be able to find like much of a luxury, but we had the basic necessities taken care of. So we give thanks for that.
And how old were you when you left that town, Davytown?
Oh, when I graduated from Manchester High School, because I passed my common entrance from Chantilly Primary into Manchester High School, and I got 3 subjects, maths, English, and biology. I stayed in the country for about 3 years after my graduation in 1980. I moved to Kingston. At that time I was about, you put it this way, 21 years old when I came to town.
And after you graduated or before you came to town, were you working?
No, I would normally help my mother, like sometimes she'd go to the marketplace.
Right.
I would go with her. Sometimes I'd take 2 or 3 days from school and go with my mother to the marketplace. But I didn't have much of a job to say, I was a freelancer.
Right.
So I did look at it.
It's not that you learned a trade or that you were working.
No, I didn't learn a trade yet. After I came to town, I realized that I had to have a skill. Because in a place like town where we have so much competition,
right,
it's hard to survive without a trade. I realized I had to learn a skill.
Yes.
But that I didn't even discover until I had gone back to the country. Because when I came to Kingston for the first time, I stayed with my brother, Brother Mark, at Central Village. He's another Adventist.
Okay.
And so that even...
One of your older brothers?
Yes, one of my eldest. He's my eldest brother. But this even kept me in a line of living, a way of thinking, because I left Manchester and I came to town amongst my brother who's still an Adventist. So it kept me like in a direction as a path as a young man should follow, But with all this, I wasn't comfortable the first time I came to town. Looking for a job, I wasn't successful. I got 1 or 2 little things, but it couldn't work out. So I went back to the country, started going to the marketplace.
Okay.
With all this, my father had left a guitar which he built as a carpenter.
He built it?
Yeah, with his own hands. This to me was one of his tasks, and he must have set this as one of his goals. When I practice, I used to take the guitar with me to the marketplace. And until today, this really has paid off because the music, I used to hear my father play the guitar and always wanted to master it.
Right.
And so this, by carrying it to the market with me and, you know, I became proficient on it.
What kind of songs did your father play? And then what kind of songs did you start?
Well, my father sing more gospel songs.
Oh.
Like, I'm gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside. These kind of songs, you know.
Right.
Sing till the power of the Lord come down. After a while I realized, because by listening to Bob Marley and Dennis Brown all these years, because I never found any prejudice against reggae music in that sense, because I could associate myself with the reggae music, you know. Bob Marley would say, no woman, no cry, and I said, many times my mama would break down in tears.
Right.
You know, so when I look into that, when mama heard a song like that, it gave her strength, you know.
Yeah.
So I found some form of association to the songs myself because I could relate to them.
Okay.
So I grew to appreciate reggae music and roots music. At one time when I started playing, like when I came to town, my bigger brother had taken the guitar with him to Kingston because as the eldest he claimed ownership of the guitar, you know. So when I came to town, I started practicing again and thing. Because at this time, actually, the guitar was staying at the country home for a while until my brother came for it.
Okay.
So actually, it could have been that the guitar drew me into town too. You know?
I see.
So I started playing and thing, but he wasn't too fascinated with me playing like rags. According to him, I was playing rags like the root songs.
Right.
Like Ayanaya Bito Babylon.
Oh, you used to practice on that?
I love all this kind of songs. I used to sing by Marley song. Every day is work. We can make it work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We can come together and make it work. You know, I used to love this kind of song because I could, as I say, I could relate to them.
So it's because your brother was an Adventist?
Well, my brother wasn't well, he wasn't too in tune with that kind of this kind of roots, kind of rock. So at one time he was very adamant in taking control of the guitar, saying my father built it to play gospel songs. But I didn't watch that. I moved on. I started looking for, when I, as I said, went back to the marketplace. This time, my brother, there was another guitar. Because when my bigger brother came to the country home, he carried another, which was one of his own guitar, to the country and left the guitar there and brought back the father's guitar to his house. Anyhow, so there was always a guitar around, you know. But the first guitar that came into the home was the one built by my father. When I went to the marketplace, I stayed there for a while until, there's no doubt, I had reached another level in my consciousness. I realized this wasn't what I really ultimately wanted with my life.
Sure.
I decided to push on. And with playing my songs, there were people with positive criticism. They were saying I could go to studio, I could go to Kingston and further myself. And all this time, these suggestions had been playing on my mind. So it eventually happened that I packed my things and I head back to Kingston. This time, I realized I needed, you're looking around, 89.
Okay.
You know, 88, 89 coming up. But at this time I realized I really needed a skill. So I came to town now with an intention to further my music and learn a trade.
Okay.
That I succeeded. I managed to start doing a little upholstering.
Okay.
Because at the country home, I had access to my mother's sewing machine. My mother had a sewing machine. Because she would sew her own apparel. Sometimes she would attempt to sew her own clothes and things.
Okay.
So I had a little understanding of sewing, but I didn't have much knowledge of upholstering in the sense like completing a set of chair. But when I came to Kingston, I went into a place they call, a upholstering firm they call Campbell's Upholstering.
And that's what, down?
That is down in south of Law Street.
Oh.
Yeah, off East Queen Street, there's Law Street, Ayoban Street, that's like in the heart of South.
Yes.
Real gunslinging area. There were times we had to be locked in the workshop, we couldn't go out, shots whistling.
Right.
So we grew up under this kind of vibes, but still I had a purpose and I knew in my mind that I had something to do with my life. So I learned the skill, and like in the evenings if I heard about any band or so that was preparing for young artists, I would go and try to make a little like audition and make myself available.
Like where, for example?
There was one band they called OB.
The OB?
OB, Old Boys.
Oh, yeah.
This was located, there was a Mr. Francis who was the manager for this band, and this was located at West Road, downtown.
Okay.
Yes. And in addition to that, I would search to find sound systems. Like in Central Village where I was staying, there was a sound system called Earth Ruler.
Okay.
That I would, like in the evenings after work, I would jam with the sound and thing, and this kind of kept the musical vibration moving in me, you know.
So what? You would take the mic sometimes and sing, or just?
Yes, what happened, I had to, normally say as a young artist, you have to pay your dues, because sometimes you go into the dance hall, if you're not a frequent or a popular DJ, they won't give you a chance, you know.
Sure.
So it had to be a neighbor, like, but Shadow Man was a very good brother though.
Okay.
I could always remember, he's still with us. We have toured together and he's still with us with the Drum Messenger music, you know.
Okay.
But he was like one of the early artists who would be willing to give me a chance, because some of the other artists, they knew me as a churchman too, you know.
Right.
So they were saying, well, oh, this churchman want to come and dance, come sing and all that thing there. But anyhow, I beat through that. And I learned after a while about dub plates. And I started realizing that I could make a recognition through dub plates. I started fashioning my songs, like writing songs, taking the melody of a song and putting my own word, you know.
Yeah.
See the moonlight on the town. Whoa, I'm getting ready. Gyro sound is playing in the lawn. So I'm getting ready. Gonna put on my dancing shoes, 'cause I am getting ready, you know. So this kind of vibe, after a while I realized that it was not just dub plate still, but when I was introduced to Ricky Trooper from Kilimanjaro,
Right.
and I did some dub plates for him, he was no doubt impressed by my talent and my ability to sing on almost any rhythm that he gave me. And he decided to introduce me to some other producers. He carried me to Mr. Earl Hayes from Aquarius, introduced me, and from there on things started happening. Because I met up with Sky High from Mama Production, who used to sell records to Aquarius. Then he invited me to studio hours.
So how much stuff did you do for Sky High?
Well, Sky High, I started doing 1 and 2 tracks, really, because I was, after Ricky Trooper had introduced me to Mr. Earl Hayes, I started hanging out at Aquarius Records with Presley, and there were other brothers. Butcher Banter would come through now and again, but he was a little ahead. Busting out with certain tunes, like he had some other tunes. He had some tunes coming out at that time.
Back in his rough days.
Back in his rough days.
Quick and all that stuff.
Yeah, yes, after Quick, he had some tunes. He had some very good tunes at the time. Browning and all. You know?
Right.
But even then, I wasn't settled, because dub plates were coming out. Ricky Trooper was singing dub plates, and had a sound system hearing about me and wanted a 1 and 2 dub plate and things. So things were beginning to happen.
But you didn't really have tunes on the road?
No, I didn't have any tune on the road much. My first song that I did was Ebony and Ivory, which was a cover version from Stevie Wonder's song. And this I did for Earl Hayes, Mr. Earl Hayes, the same man that Ricky Trooper introduced me to.
He took over when Herman Chinloy went up to America?
Yes, and started running it after a while, but Mr. Chin came back and demanded to play somehow. It's politics, I don't want to touch that.
I see. So you had that tune came out for him, Ebony and Ivory.
That came out in the later part of 92. I started recording seriously in 92. Going up to 93, I heard about Mr. Kester Brown now from New Name Records. Talking about rubbing shoulder with musicians like Mikey Spice. That time Louis Culture was in that stable. We had I think we had General Degree and a couple other artists who were in that stable. Lady Saw was in that stable too. But we realized that after a while, I wasn't settled still because I started working with Mr. Kester Brown, but things didn't work out the way I really had planned.
Did he put material up?
He had put some tracks out, like Slice of the Cake, and I did songs like Give Love a Try. That was a very good song.
Okay.
It started giving me some recognition in Jamaica here.
Okay.
But during my time at New Name, I became affiliated with Mr. Freddie McGregor.
Yeah, now Freddie told me that you always used to be around him and his crew and hanging out.
No, what happened is by seeing Mr. Freddie McGregor now coming to New Name, he saw my skill. I was singing at his studio and he saw my potential and he invited me to some of his studio hours.
To Big Ship?
Big Ship. So I went to at that time he wasn't working out of his studio. His studio wasn't built yet.
Oh.
He was working out of Music Works.
Okay.
Done by Mr. Gussie Clark.
Yeah.
Yes.
When it was still at Slight Road?
No, it was newly built. We were some of the first musicians to work at the Corner Studio. I think it's the one to the wall. I don't know if you've gone there. Anytime you journey there, it's a little corner studio. One more to the, but when you go, you'll see.
Okay.
There was a nice sound in there, and we did some works there and things. After a while, Mr. McGregor started working on his own studio.
Right.
But with Mikey Spice was working on an album with him also, and I was there. He would give me rhythms, and I would go home and find the right songs.
Right.
You know,
Right.
started working and things. But even though I was hanging out really at New Name, I even signed a contract with Mr. Kester Brown.
Okay.
You know, so by doing 1 and 2 songs with Mr. Freddie McGregor now, he realized my potential and wanted to work as a package. There was another sister by the name of Suzette, another good singer who was with us. Mr. Freddie McGregor was no doubt trying to put together a thing,
Okay.
to put forward. But I realized one thing, you know, when an artist tries to work with another artist, it's kind of hard. Because
Why?
he as an artist was busy on the street, sometimes was on tour and so on, and another artist waiting on this other artist. Sometimes it's frustrating. And this is what I think, no doubt, led me to search for greener grass. Because even by hanging around by a New Name, I wasn't fully comfortable.
Right.
Mr. Derek Barnett was like the main engineer, and he would be going on tour with the Sagittarius band.
Oh.
So there was a slight of frustration still. There was Mr. Noel Brownie, who was working there also,
Right.
as another engineer. He was working with more like the bigger artists who had gone through, you know. So it took me a little time to really make a recognition fully in the music. You had to put a little here, 2 songs there, an album here, and you know, by little and little laying of the bricks, the foundation was laid. During my time affiliation with Mr. Fred McGregor and Mr. Kester Brown, I heard about, because really and truly, it's a customary thing for an artist to try to find a comfortable stable that he can work out of, you know.
Sure.
So I heard about Exterminator, and
But but hold on. With Freddie, I mean, you actually did some incredible songs with Freddie.
we completed an album.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yes,
and
definitely.
It's a dynamite album.
Yes, man, it's a very good album. That to me was one of that I think Shake It Up Tonight went about for a couple of weeks well on the chart in the UK.
Right.
Gave me a good recognition.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, but you're saying you still didn't feel settled as such?
No, settled in the sense of knowing that, like you know, normally when I went to Exterminator, there was always like a studio day. I could look forward to that day, 2 days out of the week.
Okay.
Get my songs prepared. The facilities were there. Things were ready. Sometimes I would be waiting on Mr. Fred McGregor, who was on tour, and knew when he was coming.
Sure.
So this kind of create a kind of frustration slightly in the mind, and I needed to express myself.
Okay.
You know, and by so doing, when Mr. McGregor came forward and I had explained to him that I had gone to Exterminator and doing some works and things, I could see that he was really interested in working with me as an artist.
Right.
You know, but even until today, I wouldn't have no problem with that.
Okay.
But my main problem was really that I needed a stable, some infrastructure which I
Yes.
knew could really work after, you know.
Yeah.
And it happened. It was a good album, I tell you honest truth.
Yeah.
And I still give thanks for the work that Mr. Magikar has put into my growth, because it played a very important part in the setting up of my career, you know.
Are you ready now? Ready or not, I'm leaving. I am ready now. Mystery Babylon is sinking. Are you ready now? Ready 'cause Jah is calling. I am ready now. I know just where I'm going.
So you moved over now to Fatis.
Yes, and I think this is one of my bigger moves that I had made, because Fatis was the type of man who was willing to lay tracks for me. He would call in the Firehouse, he'd call in Sly and Robbie when he saw my potential. I did the first song for him, I think was Chant Out. I can chant out every day, oh, teach the youth to live upright. Chant out every day, oh, teach up the love and light. You know, something like that. He saw my potential and decided to work with me on an exclusive level.
Right.
And he was interested in managing me and all that. We had a meeting with Mr. Kester Brown, which he decided, because I really wanted to all things that happened. I was suggesting to Mr. Philip Burrell that Mr. Kester Brown could be my personal manager.
Oh, I see.
And him, Fatis, could be my producer.
Sure.
He could be the producer, and Mr. Kester Brown. In my little knowledge, I suggested that, you know.
Okay.
And even the other day when I went to see Mr. Kester Brown, anytime I go to England, I always go and visit him at Nyam Food at the restaurant. So, you and I were talking, and he pointed out that he can remember vividly that I said to Mr. Fatis, give him, Mr. Kester Brown, the personal management, and let Fatis deal with the producing part. And to me, that would have been a perfect team. That would have been a perfect team, my brother.
But Fatis didn't want to go.
Well, it didn't work that way.
Yeah.
It really didn't work that way, you know. And I see that as just another change in the life. I had to actually move over to the Exterminator and started working.
Let me ask you something about musically with Exterminator.
Yeah.
I mean, well, first of all, you know, how can I start with this? Like even the name Exterminator, you know, I mean, it doesn't really conjure up something positive in my mind.
That is true.
But when I listen to like the music, you know, to me musically, I see Fatis has taken up after Junjo in a way. Musically, it's like the same. It's always the kind of heaviest bass line and sort of very solid.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like if I think about a song like Who Can It Be? I mean, Fatis, it's just like the rhythm is it's absolutely fierce. It's pure dancehall. But then you're singing about, you know, like deeper things.
Okay.
Okay. So I just wondered how do you negotiate this in your music, or how do you feel? I mean, you were saying before, people noticed you were versatile, Ricky Trooper, you could sing on any rhythm.
Yes.
But do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
From a listener's point of view.
Yes.
Yeah.
How I see this then, I realize my purpose. Because I realize that by singing is not just singing, and it's not just putting words to the rhythm. I realized that I had to have a meaning. But my voice is lent to kind of hardcore roots. My voice is already patterned for that kind of vibration.
Why do you think that is?
Because it would seem to me that the baritone voice is a kind of more beckoning voice to gather the people.
Okay.
That, other than to solace in terms of giving a little romance, you know.
I understand.
It's what I mean. Yeah. It has a more commanding voice then.
Right.
It has a more commanding vibration to call the people. So with the voice, coupled with the words, I could color any rhythm and put a different vibe to it. You know, I could make the dance hall become more like a lover's rock.
Okay.
You know, the vibration that I put on it, it kind of modify it into a kind of lover's rock kind of vibes.
Okay.
It's like putting some different melodies. I found out that also that the melodies have a lot to do with it. Because I realized that one could want to say so many things, but without the right melodies, people would not be willing much to listen. So I found out importantly that the melodies had a lot to do with it.
So you use the melody as a vehicle to
Definitely. Give thanks. And as time progressed, I think to a certain extent that the artist had something to do with the growth of the rhythms also. Because when I went, if you listen like the first song, Moving Up, the first album which was put out by Fatis, you could listen, you could hear kind of not much of a concentrated production as opposed to a Weirdest Life kind of vibe, you know?
Yeah.
So you see, we started out with a little less coloring in the rhythms, like we come on, baby, come over. It'll be my love tonight. And it was a crazy ballad rhythm still, but then have not much of a coloring on it, like horns and much of a. So you realize that even Fatis had grown, and I had grown with Fatis. Both of us, we coupled with my melodies and my understanding of words and out of fashion and the rhythm. He received new insights, because of no doubt he realized my ability to flow through dancehall right into gospel, back into a little classic, and I could because really and truly its versatility has come about as a result of years of practice though.
Right.
Singing at the dancehall, singing in the church,
Right.
singing on my guitar.
Right.
You know?
And then you always draw back these influences back in, like Lord give me strength.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very importantly, because I realized this is the true essence of the messenger. Because I realized how good God has been to me. I've gone to many different parts of life. I've gone through different stages of development. But with all this, I realized that there was an act of faith that has brought me to where I am now. Guided me in my thoughts. And I held on to certain principles that my father taught me. And I realized that became valuable principles, which really has brought me to where I am. Manners, showing respect to elders, and foundation. Because when I came to town, I only heard about Mr. Dean Fraser and like the Firehouse. And when I came to town, I found myself working with these brothers. To me, that was a great privilege.
Right.
And it was no doubt that Fatis had seen that in me, the humility and the respect. And the musicians, Mr. Robbie Lee, Mr. Sly and Robbie, and they realized how willing I am to work.
Okay.
Very excited when it comes to music. Until today, the spirit is the same.
Okay.
And I see myself 90 years down the line, 1,000 years. I'll be the same, because music itself is like my motivator.
Right.
How
about a lot of backing vocals? You always seem to bring in,
That I have to give credit to Mr. Philip Boyd. Fatis, right there. Fatis knows. After there's no doubt that we have grown, and certain songs require certain kind of harmony, and then Fatis has the know-how to pick the right harmonies. Mr. Fraser, he would call Mr. Fraser. Mr. Fraser, he's like the minister for harmony and backups and overdubbing and so on. So he Fatis knows to call the right person. For drums, he would use brother George Dusty, and sometimes he would work with Sly, based on the type of vibe that he's feeling.
Sure.
So I really have to give the credit to Fatis for that.
Okay.
And even when I came into town to work with the music in the music fraternity, we didn't see much of a harmony with the singers. If singers going out, lead singers would just be going out. Sometimes they didn't even have a band.
Right.
Because even the band thing had broken down, and I really have to give thanks to Fatis, because he instilled in us that we had to have our own band, we have to have our own backup singer. I really have to give that to him.
But along those lines, it's connected, but it's a little bit different. But when I think about when you came up and started to hit, it's like the tail end of when it was the height of computer only, like no live instruments. It seems you come like right when that's about to end, and then you help make the shift so that it's more live instruments coming back into the music. And I just wondered if you have any thoughts about, first of all, why the computer thing became so dominant, and then why singers like yourself began to be more popular and swing it back the other way.
Okay, right now, my brother, I see that music is like a spirit, because music is really an expression of the inner part of our being.
Okay.
Now, it would seem to me that the very spirit of man moves its cycles, And this minute you feel in a very cheerful mood, next minute you might be sorrowful. This is how I realize that life goes. People always opt for new ideas, new creations and so on. So at the revolution of the computer, many people got excited, so excited that they lost the favor for the roots.
Right.
You know, for the authentic sound, like, you know. And I think that was more like a quick thing, but people are more taken up. I see happening now, even in the food business, the fast lane.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they can press a button and call, or they can say call for pizza, or they can just drive into a line and pick up their dinner cooked and ready. So this is the kind of thing that people I see, the remote control, and it's a kind of laziness to me, because even the musicians have gotten lazy.
So it's like the convenience factor.
Yeah, so even Papa Sly now him realize now that the computer thing is a thing could work, because to me, as His Majesty says, technology, and we have to be knowledgeable to work with technology. Don't let it overthrow our mentality, but to use it alongside with our mentality. Our creativity should never be distracted or destroyed by the computer, but we can use the computer with our creativity and come up with a sound.
Right.
Because if you listen to some of the rhythms of the past, there might be one or two little slots that the timing might miss.
Yeah, okay.
You know, you might be there dancing and feel like it slow up slightly, and you wonder where it went. So you realize with the computer, if a man could really program the right authentic sound like Sly has done.
Yeah.
Because we've heard some of the rhythms that you think it's live.
Right.
But it's really coming from a computer.
Yeah.
But they managed to put life in it.
Right.
And this is what the power of man is. The mind has created the computer, so by right we should be able to tap it at all times.
Okay. Also, after you had hooked up with Exterminator and you started to get some bigger hits, and you were signed to Island, there were some 12 inches that came out abroad that were obviously tailored for an international audience, like even, you know, like Life. You had this kind of salsa riff in
Definitely.
there. And then Who Could It Be? You know, they changed it from a dancehall song into some kind of slowed down.
Yes, with the Jungle Brothers.
Yeah. Well, I wondered, how did you personally feel about that, and whether or not you actually had any say about, yes, you can do this, or no, I don't like this.
Well, actually, the song Life, it was I who worked it out on my keyboard.
Oh, okay.
So I had the whole arrangement and I brought it to Fatis and Carlin, Sly and all the musicians, and they laid the track.
Okay.
Because I really had this feel for a kind of samba or salsa, you know?
So Sly turned it into like a Trenge thing or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Because he's good on that.
Yeah.
You give him an idea, he modifies on it.
Okay.
I really have to give thanks for that. But what I realize is, I have found that music is like people. No matter, you want us to be able to appreciate the good in all people, or the good in all music. There might be some people who might sing in rags in the dancer, but there are people who singing culturally.
Sure.
Even on these book rhythms, they find some reason to sing about culture and things.
Right.
So we give a listening ear to that.
Okay.
And we can encourage and educate them into more authentic music, as bringing in the congos and so on, you know?
Okay.
But I realize that music has to be treated that on a general universal level. You can't really be prejudiced or you set up no boundary. So I found myself listening, I grew up listening to Bob, Dennis Brown, the Israelites, Israel Vibrations. I have listened to the Ethiopians. I've grown up listening to Mr. Fred McGregor, Beres Hammond, Coco T, just to name a few of the stalwarts who have been really laying the foundation. And the I3s, I can't leave out them for some more. But what I realized, my brother, is that I used to love listening to a couple songs from Stevie Wonder, a couple songs from Frank Sinatra, from John Lennon.
Okay.
You know?
Sure.
Because even becoming more and more involved in the music fraternity, I realized I had to take time, I really have to take time to appreciate these brothers, because it's their breath, they're using their breath, they're using their life to play music. Somebody have to listen to it somehow. And they say every artist has his own little crowd out there.
Okay.
You know, so we give a listening ear to the good, at least try to listen to the good of people and encourage the good in people, you know. So I have never put myself in any boundary as to the music. I believe that I can, on every album I should have a little salsa, a little samba, a little country and western, a little acoustic guitar, just a little flute, even just a speech.
Right.
You know.
So you don't mind it being broadened or?
No, I don't mind it being broadened, but I'd never encourage them to try to, because you see, like a pear tree could never be a mango tree.
Right.
So sometimes a man do a song and a samba and it hits. Then you have some producers now who want to play upon this and say, right, boy, you do a hip hop the other day and it hit, you know.
So
and then gone, and before you know them, gone. And we become so taken up into that, so they lose their focus. I'm saying, I believe that as co-creators that God has created us, we can apply our knowledge and do a little here, that's because variety is the spice of life.
Sure.
I realize.
Sure.
You do a little here, but don't get too. I've learned a little thing. As you could say, you said, learn a little or do a little of everything, but not too much of anything.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Just a little enough to keep your balance and floating.
Realize this world is filled with bandits. Yes, I victimize the poor and those who need it. Yes, I realize this world is filled with culprits. Oh, damn. But woe be unto them and those first
A little bit later down the line, I understand you branched off from Fatis and you're sort of you're like on your own now, self-sufficient. Why? How did that come about and why?
Okay. I will always give thanks for the family that I had with him. And I still have that family, but it's somewhat scattered, you know. Family can be scattered, but not really discharged. I say, when I went to the exterminator, I went there with a good intention. With Brother Mikey General, he was always there with us too.
Right.
And we've been really working, like singing positive songs, making sure we keep the focus of the people. And when Caesar came, because I was the one who carried Caesar to the exterminator crew, and he started.
You knew him from where?
From down by Grove Road. Mr. Homer Harris is like our counselor, like he's our talent finder. He finds the talent and he introduces us to musicians and producers. So Caesar came to the same stable as I. And after a while I realized that the whole focus of the exterminator had made a split, or there was a kind of a change of direction. Because whereas I accept Jesus Christ, because I realize, my brother, at the end of the day, your philosophy is gonna stand. At the end of the day, you have to stand for your philosophy.
Sure.
What you go by.
Sure.
If you're working with a company, if they threaten your philosophy or your means by which you go by in life, you have to ask, at least defend it and find out what is this happening. Well, this is the same case that has happened there.
You had conflicts about faith?
There was no doubt that there was a conflict developing. I accept the Bible, I accept Jesus Christ. I see His Majesty as Christ in His kingly character.
Okay.
But I still see Jesus and His Majesty as the Son of God.
Okay.
First He came as a lamb and then He came as a conquering lion.
Okay.
In His first coming, He should have gotten a crown, but it was given to Him, but it was given in thorn. In His second coming, He received it, a triple crown. But within this, I say there is a greater supreme being who is behind all this. Because even Jesus within His manifestation taught about a Father. And He said, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done upon earth, as it is in Zion. Zion referring to like the spiritual aspect, the spiritual part of life, as opposed to the physical.
Okay.
Now, I realized I could sense a slight difference in philosophy and thought towards that topic where Brother Caesar is concerned.
Sure.
And if you listen to some of his songs, you can see.
Sure.
And
but you're the one, you said you're the one you brought him to Fatis in the first place.
So I tried to talk with him and counsel him, and at least we reasoned at times. At one time he had gone to the Bubble House, and I didn't hear him hailing much of His Majesty in that sense. He was kind of more hailing Emmanuel.
Right.
That is his freedom. I'm saying he's a young man, he's growing. I have gone through a stage of growing. I'm a little years ahead of him. I've seen many more moons. And probably have eaten more crops. You know? But in all that, I realized that my whole fabric of my whole existence had been threatened in the sense I accepted Jesus Christ, and then he started burning the whole aspect of Christ without good explanation.
Right.
Because whereas some people say Jesus, I try to explain and say J-E-S-U-S could never give you Jesus. It would pronounce, J-E-S-U-S would pronounce Jesus. And I hear His Majesty uttering of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
I have no problem with Jesus. If people want to debate further and speak of the original Hebrew name, we could say Yahshua.
Sure.
I have no problem with that either. I say the main important thing right now is the work of the man and the words that are written and left here for us to study and allow to become a part of our lives also. And if I didn't see this coming out of my associates and people who I am affiliated with, it would really not be encouraging to be affiliated in that area. And this is what one of my main reasons for really making a stand, you know.
So you're saying basically you took offense at what Sister...
I wouldn't say I take offense. I would say I took a stand towards for my righteousness. Because I saw a certain form of corruption creeping in. Because he started, even at one stage, he had a song that he said, he smoked the herb and get a humble thought. And Babylon couldn't stop this, what's it not? And he used some words, which I wouldn't repeat here now. I became concerned about it. He used some words which was like the layman word, or the man out there in the street. Like a rummer, any ordinary man without any concern or control of his tongue would have used. So I brought it to him with reasoning, and I said to him, I found a passage, James chapter 3, it tells that faith controls the tongue. And we read it and we go through it, and at the fullness of at the ending of the reading, when the fullness should have come, he appeared very stubborn.
Okay.
Not wanting to accept what was written or what I read from the Bible. From there on I realized this wasn't right. Something in a gut feeling tell me that it wasn't right. When I went to Mr. Burrell, I spoke to Fatis, because normally if you have a problem in the house, you go to the bigger one.
Sure.
Fatis is the manager, I saw him now like Papa.
Right.
So I said, Papa, what happened to Sister behaving so? And Fatis would say, well, he's young and thing, but I said, we have to grow him from young now before he get old, because he's going to shame us. If we don't curb him now, let us talk to him and address the matter, because apparently he's going out of sequence with what we stand for here.
I see.
And I didn't get that impression that Fatis was very adamant about defending the exterminators' status and our reputation as cultural labor.
Fatis thought, I'm getting hits with this artist, so...
That's the vibes I get, that's the vibes I get, you know. And at one time, Fatis was even looking about kind of having Caesar touring separately, and me and brother probably Magikar and somebody else.
Yeah.
And these kind of things kind of really sent to me that, you know, probably this is just a sign that I should set up my own little thing.
Okay.
And as a young man growing up, I have a good local knowledge. Based on I study, I read, I try to become knowledgeable of what is happening. Because if one is involved in any area and not wanting to be knowledgeable, it's not wise. It's good to be knowledgeable of whatever field you're in. So I seek knowledge, and I've been advised by Mr. Harris to get a little office whereby we can have our own record coming out, and at the same time can still have Exterminator of cultural. Like all my songs that I've done with Exterminator will still be distributing through I.
Okay.
You know, so we keep it in. When I see Fatis, I greet him properly. He's a man I will always respect, and I will always say this. He has done a very great job, and he's still doing. But whereas the philosophy or the religion is concerned, women have not have seen eye to eye with Sizzler and the whole tradition.
And when you set up your own thing, you took Mikey with you?
It was more like he and I decided to try it, because it was he and I who went to Fatis too.
Okay.
You know? And Brother Mikey General was with Fatis long before I met Fatis.
Okay.
Because in the early years of recordings, Brother Mikey General used to drive around the Firehouse crew.
Right.
He was the one who take them to the studio and pick up Fatis and drop off tape, and so he was always there.
Okay.
So when I went now, my time of coming was like Jamaica carried me and
Oh,
initiate me to the Exterminators family. And,
Okay.
You know, so when I tried, it was inevitable that he would try to, you know.
I see. I thought his Babylon Cake was superb. I really liked that cut of that.
Give thanks.
Yeah.
Give
And
thanks.
then I thought the album was quite strong, the spiritual rhythm.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Give thanks.
Since that time, you have to explain to me now. Are you signed to Palm? Or you're not working with them? Or you are? Or is it Island? Or
Well, right now, I tell you that if anything we're gonna do is an album, just like an album deal with options, you know. With options. You can do an album. If things go too well, we can push on to another and so on. We've actually spoken at length about this. We've had meetings about this, but we have not gone into any serious work as yet.
And then is it true you have an album coming from VP or something?
Yes, there's an album that we've completed. Mr. Fraser has been the executive producer.
Yes.
It's gonna be a very good album.
What's it called?
New Day Has Come.
Okay. And it's due out when?
It's due out, I would say February, March, you know.
Okay.
Around Easter.
Okay. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about live performances because I must say, you know, I've seen you probably half a dozen times by now. I've never seen you do a bad show. And I can't really think of any other artist I could say that for. And
give thanks.
yeah, I mean, it's quite incredible to see you on stage. You have so much energy. You run around barefoot, you're doing cartwheels, you're climbing on top of the speakers, and you know, none of it seems forced. It's all just it's like your music is energizing you.
Give thanks.
But I wonder, how does it feel for you at the time when you're actually performing? I mean, you know, it's every time I've seen you, you've done this, so it leads me to believe that probably every time you perform, you must be doing
I do some things. I try to do because one of my main purposes of doing all this is to keep the attention of the people. Because to me, if I want the message to really reach home to the people, it means I have to give it all I've got. I have to give it my best shot.
Got to legalize it. Please don't criticize it. Legalize it.
like Fulani people in
The Fulani people, man.
Mali, that like around there?
Yes, man. That's what I'm talking, man. The Fulani people, man.
So when you went to Africa, you went where?
I went to Gambia, actually, you know, first place, and then I went to Senegal. No, I went to Senegal first, and then I went to Gambia. I visited the Guru Island.
Oh, you went there.
The people, President Jammeh in Gambia, I went to see him, played for him with my guitar and thing, and he received us with a very wonderful service, showed that I had enough respect, and he gave us a robe and so on.
Oh.
I saw it as an initiation.
So
Sorry about that, my brother.
how did that feel for you to be able to?
It brought tears to my eyes, my brother. It brought tears to my eyes, you know. And to me, this is real what my dream has come to be able to govern myself, and by so being, I become a governor in my own little way. I can go to and fro the earth with a message, because this message is like a formula that I've discovered, and I apply it in my life, and it has worked. So I want to share it with other people. That it pays to be respectful. It pays to be grateful for those who've helped. It pays to recognize people's contribution, no matter how simple it may seem. And to have respect for elders, and
Okay.
it pays.
Okay.
To remember your creator and remember where you're coming from and all that. It pays, my brother.
And are there other artists in this stable now that we should know about?
Yes, my brother. I'm working with Brother Babatunde, Brother Gadiel, Bitter Roots, Ras Splendid, Talented Peter Franks, Shadowman, Michael General is there.
Yeah.
And Milton Blake, and Princess Natural.
Oh, the Cherry Natural?
No, not Cherry Natural, Princess Natural, another Princess Natural.
Not the dog.
Not the dog poet,
Okay.
Empress Cherry Natural,
Okay.
really. But we're growing, because I see this as a family, and it's just since of late that the whole music thing has been attacked, really, and it would seem as if it's a hard business. Really and truly, it's supposed to be one of the most lucrative, because there's nothing that lasts but like music.
Right.
The older it gets, the better it becomes. You know?
Okay.
So if we can secure this, I want one whole host of angels to travel with me, man, to sing.
Okay.
Sing. Sometimes the might not big, but each one can get a chance to express themselves and carry home something.
Okay.
You can see a growth. Instead of sitting home, people come and utilize the voices and the talent, whether it's skit or playing or do something. So I see what we're setting here, we're really attempting to kind of have a head office like, that we're going to have like youth clubs and so on. They can come in, meet with us. We have meetings like the heads of the board and presidents can meet here. And we have like, if we have talent surges, we have, you know, pop and variety concert from the clubs and so on. We select winners from each club and bring a grand final and make it into a thing.
Okay.
We can have nice workshops, we can have stalls, and this day we can have like a 3-day thing, like a festival. Because we need more of this, my brother. In Jamaica here, they have a couple big festivals, but we have to give thanks for Rebel Salute. Because it's like one of the leading cultural show now. People can come with their art and craft. Farmers can come with their food, roast, yam and all these things, and really see benefits at some time of the year or the end of the year. So, you know, people look to that. So this is, I realize, events play a very important role.
Okay.
And the spirit of, for example, the spirit of the singer is so much more important than the sales of the record. Because when you listen to a song of John Lennon, it doesn't matter how much he left behind his estate. What one of his songs does to you could never care about.
I understand what you're saying.
The little pound that every day hanging around, you know?
Right.
What one song does for you, man, you could fly, leave all his well behind. So I realize it is important for us to secure our little thing. As a musician, we have to hold our standard. And this is why, at one time I used to go around with my barefoot and so on. But some people got offended. Because some didn't want to see their chief musician as a barefoot man. Well, in fact, I was born a barefoot man. But people are funny. So in order to keep them steady in their meditation and to hold focus, when I come to the road, like I'm coming on the street, I make sure I put on my boot. It doesn't have to be fancy, you know, but it's clean, and I'm sure in my step, you know.
Okay.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please like and share. For more information, visit jetstar.co.uk.
Blessed are the pure in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. And blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they who hunger for righteousness. Patiently I wait on thee, oh my God, to set me free. Fervently I pray to see the fulfillment of prophecy. Patiently I wait on thee, oh my God, to set me free. Fervently I pray to see the fulfillment of prophecy. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Yes. And blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Yeah. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of Jah. Blessed are the persecuted for righteousness. Patiently I'll wait on thee, oh my God, to set thy free. Fervently I pray to thee, the fulfillment of